Hello everyone, I'm Don Arleth and welcome to Flash News. Poland is increasing the security level on the border with Belarus. The president has decided to introduce a 30-day state of emergency along the border with our eastern neighbor. This is in response to the request of the government. Thus, the state of emergency in a selected area is already in force in Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. Today, the European Parliament expressed its support for the move by Polish authorities.
Although there have been about 30 people near the Polish border for a dozen or so days now, the number could rise dramatically at any time. For many weeks, migrants from Arab countries have been brought to Belarus. This is about 10,000 people who can cross the borders of Poland, Latvia or Lithuania at any time. These are migrants who have nothing to do with refugees. They are used by Lukashenko's regime to try to destabilize the situation in the European Union. The Lukashenko regime, in retaliation for the attitude of our authorities, for the attitude of the Lithuanian and Latvian authorities, but also for the actions of the European Union, wants to return to the situation of 2015. Therefore, President Andrzej Duda, at the request of the government, decided to introduce a state of emergency in the border towns. It concerns a strip of about 3 kilometers wide in Podlasie and Lubelszczyzna. We must make such decisions to ensure the full security of Poland and the European Union, hence the President's decision. Soon, residents of border towns will be held by the territorial defense forces. People who do not live in areas under the state of emergency will not be allowed to be here for a month. There is a ban on assembly, a ban on recording soldiers, for example, and a requirement to have an ID. In addition, the government is preparing assistance for companies whose turnover will fall due to the strengthening of the border. We are working on giving the opportunity to compensate for the lost damage to businesses, mainly tourism businesses that operate along our eastern border. For many residents of border towns, government action is understandable. So far, nothing special is happening here, but overall there is a threat, because you know how it is. Now maneuvers are supposed to be held in Belarus, 200,000 soldiers, and here I think they are waiting for this offensive. Next week, a few kilometers from Belarus, Belarusian-Russian maneuvers will be held. One of the elements of the exercise will be a response to a violation of the Belarusian border by Poland.
Lukashenko regime in Belarus.
Poland's actions are supported by Brussels. The European Parliament supported the need to respond to the actions of the East. The position presented by the Polish authorities, by the Hungarian authorities at this moment is practically understood and supported by practically all EU member states. This crisis is extremely dangerous and particularly delicate. Moreover, the Zapad military exercises prepared and conducted jointly by the general staffs of Belarus and Russia are about to begin. The actions of the Belarusian and Russian services can be seen in this video published by Lithuania's former defense minister. After Belarus deceives Middle Eastern citizens and delivers them to the frontier, uniformed soldiers forcefully push them towards Lithuania. The introduction of a state of emergency is supposed to prevent such situations in Poland.
It's good for Poland and it's good for the U.S. Poland will almost double its imports of American liquefied natural gas. Under an amended agreement, Venture Global will supply 2 million tons per year of LNG to the Polish oil and gas company PGNiG. Imports of American gas are to diversify energy sources and thus increase energy security.
Not 3.5 million tons as before, but 5.5 million tons per year. That's how much liquefied natural gas will come to Poland from US company Venture Global after 2022. A very important message because it concerns Poland's energy security, something that is priceless, something that defines whether all Poles can feel safe. All contracts with American suppliers are expected to provide us with about half of Poland's annual demand for natural gas. 2022 is no accident. After 2022, when the Yamal contract expires, we will no longer be forced to buy gas from the east. The gap left by the Yamal contract is to be filled by gas from Norway, which will flow through the Baltic Pipe pipeline, as well as blue fuel from the United States. We can be part of ensuring energy security not only for your country but also for the region. PGNiG has been growing its business brilliantly since the opening of the terminal. Orlen, which has several hundred gas stations in Germany under the Star brand, also announced its development. By the end of the year, a dozen or so of them will operate under the Orlen brand, like this station near Berlin. We are introducing Polish products, even Germans liked our hot dogs, which is our cult product, Orlen Coffee, Orlen Hot Dog. And it's also breaking popularity records here, so we'll go with gastronomy too. We want to build a premium brand, a brand that will showcase the Polish economy. Farmers, among others, worked for the Polish economy. Minister Grzegorz Puda met them today. The talks concerned, among others, the change in the insurance system as well as the role of family farms.
Now for the tragic consequences of Hurricane Ida. In the northeastern United States, tornadoes and flooding resulted in the deaths of more than 40 people. A state of natural disaster was declared in the states of New York and New Jersey.
Hurricane Ida, the 5th largest hurricane in our history. Record rain fell in these states, New York recorded more rain yesterday, the first day of September, than it usually sees the entire month of September. We saw more than 3 inches of rain per hour fall in Central Park. The United States National Weather Service issued a flood emergency in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island, and parts of Long Island last night. This is the first time that such a warning has ever been issued for the city.
Water flooded roads and tunnels. At subway stations it poured onto platforms and train cars. The rainfall in Central Park was the heaviest in 94 years. The mayor described the situation as a historic weather event and urged residents not to leave their homes. Meanwhile, in southern U.S., relief efforts are underway for those affected by the impact of Ida, which reached the Louisiana coast on Sunday as a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 240 kilometers per hour. Many towns are running out of water and gasoline. Power is out in 600,000 homes.
The European Union has to establish its own rapid reaction forces, said the head of EU diplomacy, Josep Borrell, before an informal summit of EU defense ministers in Slovenia. According to Borrell, the chaotic withdrawal of Western forces from Afghanistan can accelerate the creation of an EU defense force.
And I think it's clear that the need for more European defense has never been as much as evident as today after the events in Afghanistan. And I am sure that the ministers will discuss about how to face this new situation, how we can be more prepared for future challenges. From time there are events that catalyzes the history, Sometimes something happens that pushes the history. It creates a breakthrough. And I think that the Afghanistan events of this summer is one of these cases.
According to initial estimates, the EU Ministers of Defense assumed that about 5,000 soldiers would be available as part of the mechanism, but it would be possible to increase the number of soldiers to 20,000.
And now it's time for a coronavirus update. 390 new cases of COVID-19 infections were reported. That's twice as many as a week ago. And in the last 24 hours, 7 people have died. These are the latest epidemic figures from Poland, and there are reasons to be worried, especially if you're not vaccinated.
Though it's been almost 6 months since the infection, they're still battling complications today. If my wife hadn't been with me at the time when I was going through this, it would have been a tragedy for me. There would have been no one to give me a glass of water. To avoid a severe course of the disease, Mr. and Mrs. Kokot got vaccinated without hesitation. And there are more and more infections in Poland. The fourth wave has already knocked on our door. It is already present. These over 50% increases show that the epidemic is starting to gain momentum. In Europe, there is talk of a new variant from Colombia. In Poland, 4 cases of infection with this mutation were confirmed last month. No person is currently ill as a result of infection with the MU mutation. The MU variant is currently absent in Poland. Regardless of the dominant variant, the appeal remains the same. Let's get vaccinated.
Preparations for the beatification of Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński and Mother Elżbieta Róża-Czapska are coming to an end. The ceremony will take place in 10 days. And now for some of the stories of people who say how much they owe to their intercession.
It was a miracle. Sister Nula of the Community of the Sisters Disciples of the Cross, through persistent prayer to Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński, miraculously healed of thyroid cancer with metastasis to lymph nodes and throat. The situation with breathing, eating, lying down was very difficult. When the doctor said I was healthy, it was obviously done in stages, while we had no doubt that it was a miracle. A miracle also happened in the life of Karolina Gawrych. At the age of 7, I experienced a terrible accident. A huge beam fell on my head, crushing it. The doctors gave no chance of survival. That's when the family began praying to Mother Elżbieta Róża-Czapska for healing. To the surprise and shock of the doctors, I started healing. Before the accident, I was completely unfamiliar with the figure of Mother Czapska. Only after the accident, I started reading her biography and learning about her life. The common beatification of these 2 figures is not accidental. They had a special bond during their lives. They taught each other, inspired each other, and worked together for a long time, Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński and Mother Elżbieta Czapska. A particularly important period of their life, the occupation, will be told through the unusual film Wyszyński, Revenge or Forgiveness. A feature story about completely unknown fate of a young priest Lieutenant Stefan Wyszyński, who during the Second World War is a chaplain of the Home Army in the Campinos Forest and also in Laski at the site of blind Mother Róża-Czapska, serves as a chaplain of a secret insurgent hospital. The movie is the official production of the beatification ceremony. The premiere is scheduled for September 12th. It will be available in theaters 5 days later.
The CEV Eurovolley Men's Championship is underway. The best teams from the old continent took to the volleyball courts in Poland to fight for victory. The Polish team finished their first match earlier on Thursday.
The Polish team started the volleyball Euro just as planned. A confident 3-1 win against the weakest in their group was important not only because the Poles recorded their first 3 points, but also because it was their first official match after a very sad Olympic Games for them.
There's not 1 hour I was not thinking about Tokyo. Yeah, maybe when I sleep. But we had something in mind for I think 3 years, 4 years, going for 1 goal and then you miss it. It will stay for months in my mind all the time.
Because now it's time for a new chapter, the European Championships, and it's in our country among Polish fans. 2 years ago, the Poles won bronze medals. We have been waiting for gold in the championship of the old continent for 12 years. It is known our goal will be another medal. The gold one is lurking out there somewhere. 2 years ago, Slovenia thwarted us, but the bronze medal to sweeten the deal was also quite nice. I hope that this Polish accent, Polish fans, Polish hold, the fact that we play at home will decide that we will have the most valuable medal. Before the battle for medals, first matches in their group. After the meeting with Portugal tomorrow, the Poles have a day off, but then the marathon starts. 3 meetings in 3 days. Next, with Serbia, Greece and Belgium. At the end of the group competition awaits the clash with Ukraine. We are motivated to show as much as possible, but also to smile and have fun with volleyball. I think the fans will also have more excitement then.
We have been waiting for this moment for 4 decades. The Swedish music group Abba is back on the stage. A tribute tour is in the works with the hologram avatars of all 4 of them. And we have a special treat for you here on Flash News, a brand new Abba song which debuted today.
Here's the latest still hot Abba music video clip. I think that's why they waited so long, so they wouldn't fail. So far they have 2 brand new songs for us and a whole album is planned. It may happen that in a few days these songs will have 200 million hits on the internet because those curious to listen and see the new Abba really won't be lacking. Currently this is the #1. Dancing Queen on the internet has over 500,000 views. And such timeless hits Abba created plenty.
So when you're near me, darling, can't you hear me?
Mamma mia!
Mamma Mia, Money Money or Honey Honey. Those were such silly lyrics, but songs don't have to be very ambitious, whereas there are great melodies just brilliant. In 1974 with their Waterloo, they went to Eurovision. And they won, securing Sweden's first win in the history of the competition. They were completely different from the rest of Europe. Girls in colorful dresses, amazing outfits, the star-shaped guitar. They've only appeared in Poland once, but it wasn't a big ticketed concert. October 13th, 1976, they performed in the program Studio 2. They were extremely surprised. That's how they told me that they were popular behind the Iron Curtain. In a country where Western records are not sold, and there is our fan club in Poland with which the Reds supposedly flooded them with letters. Abba mania lasts all the time. The band is loved by millions of people all over the world. We have musicals, movies. There is even a museum in Stockholm dedicated to this fantastic band. Abba is undoubtedly one of the most important bands in the history of world pop music.
Do I have it in me?
Finally, the rumors of them making a comeback have come to light.
Nothing is impossible for this woman. Manami Ito, a Japanese violinist who performed at the opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games in Tokyo, constantly avoids obstacles thrown in her way. She lost her arm in an accident and yet is living life to the fullest as a musician, athlete, and nurse.
When she got into a motorcycle accident at the age of 20 and lost her arm, Manami was convinced she wouldn't leave home for the rest of her life. 16 years passed. During this time, the Japanese woman returned to the violin. She began playing as a child, became a qualified nurse, and began swimming, taking part in 2 Paralympic Games. Today, she is professionally and personally fulfilled. She has 2 daughters and an unwavering belief that difficulties are only there to be overcome. Cameras, chips, apps at every turn. The new capital of Egypt being built on the outskirts of Cairo is supposed to be the smart city of the future. The metropolis growing in the desert, tentatively called the new administrative capital, is to relieve the overcrowded Cairo. The most important institutions of the country, some religious facilities and business centers will be relocated here. New technologies will dominate in the mega city. Cairo will retain its tourist and cultural functions. The future of the oldest synagogue in London is in doubt. The reason? Lack of light. Located in the center of the financial district, the temple will soon have 2 new neighbors. Further skyscrapers will even more reduce the access of light to the interior. They will also increase the noise outside. We will be like a small mushroom in a big forest, says the rabbi, who seriously fears the closure to the faithful of the more than 300-year-old monument. A tour with an element of horror. Viewing white sharks on the Cape Cod coast is popular again. Tourists have not been deterred by the predators' attacks that have occurred in recent years. A shark-watching cruise is a complicated operation. Boats are accompanied by an airplane which tracks the animals from above. Almost every trip ends with an exciting encounter with a shark.
Well, I guess that's as close as we'll get to a Jaws reboot, but at least Abba's back on stage. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night.